Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Colton. I am the Maximo technical subject matter expert for all of our national market here at IBM. And today I have an extremely exciting topic I love to talk about, which is conditional monitoring in IBM Maximo. Now, let's just jump right into it. There's several ways that we can actually do this in IBM Maximo. As you can see from this visual, we have the manual way, where you could, as part of a work order or an ad hoc inspection, maybe it's a point in time measurement that you want to take on a piece of equipment. You can do so whether it's the desktop or the Maximo mobile device. And by doing so, within Maximo, there's an application or module called conditional monitoring. And this is where you can set up for instances like run hours, temperature, vibration. You can set upper and lower thresholds to then trigger preventive maintenance or job plans and work orders that you want to automatically be prompted in the case that there is something going wrong with your equipment. Now, that's the manual way of doing it. The next visual that you see in the middle here is how we can automate this process. So you can automate and feed meter readings directly into the core Maximo solution that you all know and love if you're using Maximo today by using the integration framework that's available to pass that data into Maximo. And in a very popular use case, as long as it's low frequency, through OSI Pi integrations, we can send those vibration, temperature readings. Again, at a low frequency, you can send it to the core Maximo database to be processed and analyzed through, again, that conditional monitoring application. And then finally, on the right-hand side, this is where we may want to then monitor millions of tag data, millions of points that we're collecting and operational data that we have, and bring that into Maximo. What we do in that scenario is we'll actually set up a separate database purely for operational data, in which we have something called Maximo Monitor that can then take that data, analyze it, run machine learning algorithms against it, and bring additional insight to the data that we're collecting. Now, this is almost a step-by-step approach that we see with clients. Again, you can start it at any stage of the journey implementing this type of conditional monitoring, but these are some of the key ways that we do with Maximo. And especially if you're looking to get into predictive maintenance, the more you can implement these type of practice, the better quality data you're going to have to drive a lot of those AI capabilities. And that's the whole point of conditional monitoring as well. So with that team, these first two capabilities that we've seen here, I have a whole different video on how we utilize Maximo Monitor and predictive analytics, but I really want to show you guys how we can do this manually, as well as if it's a low frequency, how do we automate a lot of that data and do conditional monitoring in the core Maximo application. So with that, let's jump right into the demo. As I mentioned before, for this demonstration, we're going to highlight those first two use cases. How can we do conditional monitoring directly from data we're entering into the mobile app? And how do we set up Maximo so that when we integrate systems like OSI Pi, PLCs into Maximo, we can automatically generate conditional monitoring from the meter readings that we're taking? And so that's the core of this demonstration today is we're going to focus on those two key use cases. So starting with the first use case, let's say that as a technician, I'm making my rounds and I identify that one of our conveyors is making a strange noise. This could be potentially from overloading the system, but ideally what I want to do here is analyze the equipment, maybe using a thermal imaging gun to take a temperature reading from the motor to understand why it's creating this noise. So here within Maximo, before I jump and grab my mobile application, here in Maximo is where we track the asset record for our conveyor system. Now, for those familiar, if we go to our work tab here, you can see all the work orders that has been generated over the past couple months, years. And what we're going to want to see is as I go through this demonstration, we should be able to see at the end that a new work order has been created. So with that, let's go ahead and open up the mobile app. As I mentioned before, I'm doing my rounds as a technician, and I notice strange sounds coming from a conveyor system. So the first thing that I would do is open up the Maximo mobile app, click on that little plus button in the bottom right-hand corner and click, let's go ahead and create an inspection. Now, instead of having to manually enter the asset ID, I just want to go ahead and scan the asset using a QR code. So here is our conveyor. Oh, looked like it just scanned a little bit too quickly. That we want to analyze. And there you go. As fast as that, it picked up on the barcode, scanned it. And now we have the asset record ready to go. Next, I'm going to go ahead and choose what inspection that I am doing. Let's say that we're running a temperature motor inspection for this process. And as always, just following the blue button, I click start. So here I'm prompted with the actual inspection itself, which is basically saying I need to use my thermal imaging gun and measure the motor's temperature. Here, we're going to go ahead and say that this is above 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And as always, follow the blue button, say that this is completed. And there we go. We have now taken a meter reading through a basic ad hoc inspection. And now what we're going to want to do is Maximo is then going to process that information using our conditional monitoring application, and it's going to automatically create a work order for us. So now that you've seen that process, let's open up the conditional monitoring application to show exactly what was set up during this process. Now, later on during this demonstration, we're going to create one from scratch, so don't worry. We'll cover the basic step-by-step instructions on how to do so. But let's go ahead and walk through what Maximo is doing in the background while we wait for Maximo to analyze that last meter reading. So here, what we have is I created a conditional monitoring record within Maximo where we have the overall title, which asset this is associated to, what meter we're uh, pulling in order to analyze. And down below, we have our upper and lower action limits. Warnings can also be set to notify you in the case that it reaches that certain threshold, as well as action limits. Now, this is where Maximo will actually take action on if temperature is above 200 degrees. Now, as we saw with the first part of this demonstration, we set it to 220 as part of the ad hoc inspection. So we are looking for Maximo to automatically create a work order for us. Over here, we can also set lower thresholds. So we can have our lower warning limit as well as our lower action limit. And down below, you can see what is triggered from this, which includes generating a preventative maintenance, a job plan. This is where we set up all of this in Maximo, including our priority. We'll cover characteristics in a little bit, but not only can we do it based off of, for example, gauges that we're tracking, you can also do it based off of characteristics where you just want to say, okay, the vibration readings we're getting are high, low, medium, and it's not necessarily based off of a point system like we see here. So this is what we're Maximo is doing in the background here. Let's go back to that asset record to see what was triggered. So let's go ahead and go back. And what we're expecting here is that a work order has been created, and there it is for motor temperature repair. So where that came from, if we remember, one of the job plans that we had associated to this conditional monitoring record was to generate a job plan that was to repair the motor. So let's go back to that asset real quick and see that job plan that was triggered. And it should just be a very simple job plan for the purpose of this demo. And there you go. So the second part of this demonstration I want to walk you through, that was the manual capabilities. Now, to automate this process, you can use what we call the Maximo integration framework to directly integrate with the systems that generate those meter readings. And those meter readings, just so for your information, if you haven't seen some of the other videos that I've done, are all tracked on the asset record itself. So here we can see we're tracking 3 different meter readings for this equipment: run hours, temperature, vibration. And so these are what Maximo is looking for in the background to ensure that we can take proactive action on equipment in the case that they are breaching their lower or upper threshold limits. So as I've shown before, this can be done manually directly through the mobile app. It can also be done, and I don't think I showed this yet. Let's go ahead and go. It can also be entered manually through the intermediate readings as part of the desktop. So there's a couple ways to do it. Definitely recommend the mobile route, especially if you're doing ad hoc inspections or wanting to enter meter readings as part of a work order. So there's a couple ways that you can do that there. But just as importantly, I want to walk you guys through how do you build this from scratch. So especially for a lot of you, I've shown you how it works, but now I want to walk you through what this will actually look like if you're building from scratch, especially those who are doing setting up their system, their Maximo system themselves. So here, let's just create a brand new conditioning monitoring. Let's say this is for vibration. Let's say this is conveyor vibration monitoring. Ring. Same thing, we're going to set it to that same asset ID that we were working with earlier. We're going to go ahead and select one of the meter readings that we want to monitor. Notice how none of the upper and lower limits actually show up as I can populate it, and it makes it read only. The reason for this is vibration, if we look at vibration, is actually a characteristic meter type. And there's different types of meter readings in Maximo. There's gauge, which you saw with temperature, which is essentially the numeric based meter reading that we have coming in. You have the character based, which is, for example, alphanumeric, which is saying high, medium, low. Then you have continuous, like run hours. So there's several ways that we can do conditional monitoring in Maximo. This one's vibration. Here is where we would then set a value. Let's say high vibration is going to trigger. I don't think I have a job plan set up for this, so we'll just choose any for now, and then setting the priority. So this is another way beyond what we were doing with temperature readings, where it was a gauge meter in which we were setting upper and lower limits. You can also do that for characteristic as well. The last thing that I want to highlight, especially again for those viewers that are doing this on your own, setting this up with Maximo, is you do need to ensure that this is being run on a scheduled basis, where Maximo is taking a certain time of the day to analyze meter readings coming through. The way that you do that is do that automation is actually through something called a cron task. So yes, let's go ahead and not save that. Cron tasks are essentially automation that Maximo has to trigger capabilities. And what I mean by that, let's go ahead and show you. Let's bring up I just cannot spell today, a context that we leverage for this conditional monitoring, which is the measure point work order generating cron task. This is what's running in the background at a certain frequency. In this scenario, I have it running every minute. And it's going to take in certain parameters. Say that you want to specify this conditional monitoring that we're doing is only for our Bedford site or for this organization within Maximo that we've set up. This is where we can actually do a lot of that, setting a lot of those settings. So here we can set it to run every minute, every hour when Maximo. For here, I set it for every minute to run. And basically what it's looking at is that queue in which um, that conditional monitoring to see have we breached those thresholds or not. So this is the automated tool in the background that's running. And it's a really simple way that you can just set it up, set the schedule, click the save button, but more importantly, make sure it's active. But once you've done that, you're off to the races. You have a conditional monitoring end-to-end solution that you can leverage across multiple asset types and to get you to that next level of maintenance, going from reactive to condition-based. So again, team, this was just a quick demonstration of some of the conditional monitoring capabilities in Maximo. I definitely recommend this approach and integrating directly into the core manage application if it's low frequency or if you're doing those point in time measurements as part of a work order inspection. For the real-time data, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, look into leveraging Maximo Monitor, where you can ingest all of that data in thousandths of a second um, into a dedicated database in which we would analyze and move you even further along your journey of maintenance maturity into predictive analytics. So with that, everyone, thank you for the time. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email is in the description of this video for anything that you need, and especially video requests moving forward. But with that, thank you for your time, and I look forward to more videos in the future.